Hi, I'm Jeremy, the Zoo Nerd, coming to you live from my backyard in Los Angeles, California. How's everyone doing today? Hope you're well, hope you're happy, healthy, and having some fun. It is a toasty hot day over here where I am living today. We're nearly at 100 degrees, so I'm gonna try to stay in the shade during this and be a little bit cooler. Today is Capybara Appreciation Day. Capybaras are the world's largest rodents, and they are related to animals that you might be more familiar with, things called cavies, which you probably haven't heard of, but cavies' close relative is the guinea pig, and that is probably capybara's closest relatives as well. There's technically two species of capybara. The one that's just called capybara, and then the other one is called the lesser capybara, which sounds a little sad for him, but they're just smaller in size. But very, very similar otherwise. They look very similar. For a long time they thought they were the same species. They live in slightly different countries, but similar habitats. So what it looks like is going to be the same, but physically it's going to be a bit different geographically. The lesser capybaras live further north in the little country of Panama, and then in the top portions of Colombia and Venezuela. That's where Central America meets South America. The regular capybara, or the bigger capybara, lives further south, also in Colombia and also in Venezuela, but in addition to that, in Brazil, Bolivia, Ecuador, Guyana, Paraguay, Uruguay, Peru, and the northern area and the eastern area of Argentina. Now, all of these areas have something very much in common. They are all very wet. Capybaras always live very, very close to a source of water, and that's because they spend about half of their time in the water. They rely on water as a place to go when they are scared and where they can hide and get away from most of their predators. They also eat things that grow in and around the water. They'll eat a lot of grass up on the shoreline of a river, a bank, of a lake, near ponds. But they'll also eat aquatic vegetation, so plants that grow under the water or in the edge of the water. They actually have partially webbed feet, so they have some skin that kind of extends between their toes on both their front and their back feet, and that makes them excellent swimmers. They can also hold their breath underwater for about 5 minutes, so that's pretty good. That's longer than I can. Not a record by any means, but pretty good length of time. Capybaras are rodents, so they're related to things like squirrels, mice, rats, hamsters, guinea pigs, chinchillas. All of those things are rodents, but also things like porcupines and beavers. So the rodent family is very big, very diverse. Capybaras are the biggest. They're more than twice the size of the next biggest rodent, which is the beaver. We've already talked about beavers in another critter chat. The third biggest are porcupines. We've also talked about them. So how big are capybaras? They can be between 3 and just over 4 feet in length. They stand about 18 to 20 inches tall at the shoulder, and they can weigh between 60 and 175 pounds. That means that they can weigh as much as an adult human, so they are a good-sized animal for sure. With capybaras, their ears, eyes, and nose, their nostrils, are all at the top of their head. That's well suited for their life in the water. They can kind of be mostly under the water with just their nose, eyes, and ears out to help watch for danger, and also so they can continue to breathe while they're spending a lot of time in the water. They are also able to run pretty quick. They will typically run if they're on the land and then dive into the water. But their running speed is near 20 miles an hour. That's faster than people can run, so definitely pretty quick, despite them looking a little chubby, should we say. They're typically more active in the morning and in the afternoon right before sunset. So that word is crepuscular. They kind of take the hottest time of the day to rest, either in the water, in the mud, or in the shade. And then they are out eating kind of in those early morning hours when it's first light, and at the end of the day when it starts to cool off a bit more. Because where they live, it's pretty hot, it's pretty warm. It's in the tropics, it's in the rainforest, and it's around big bodies of water. Along the Amazon River is where they can be found throughout most of their range. They typically live in family groups led by a dominant male. He kind of controls who is in the group. He will let other males be in the group, but they don't get to breed, so they have to listen to him. They have to follow his orders. Then there's usually between 1 and 3 adult females, and then their babies. So it's typically a group of like 10 to 12 individuals. But during the wet season and during the time when there's lots of new babies around, it can be up to 40 or 50 individuals, especially if food is really plentiful. If there's a lot of grass and a lot of plants growing, then they'll be happy to live in bigger groups. They can usually live between 7 and 10 years out in the wild. In a zoo setting, they can usually live a bit longer, maybe up to 12 or 13 years. When they are little babies, they have a lot of predators, and the whole group kind of helps watch out for predators that might come after the babies, because some of those predators will also go after the adults. But things like ocelots, which are a smaller jungle cat, harpy eagles, which are huge eagles that live in South America and Central America, anacondas, which are great big snakes, and then of course caiman, which is a type of crocodile related animal, and then of course jaguars are in a lot of their range, and jaguars and caimans will both go after adults, and an anaconda will if it's big enough. So they definitely have a lot of predators out there, and they have to always stay on guard. But they have good sense of hearing, a good sense of smell, and living in a group helps them to coordinate watch efforts to make sure that nothing sneaks up on them. They have a variety of vocalizations that they can make, including squeaks, grunts, whistles, and barks that help to warn each other of different types of predators and what to look out for. When the babies are born, they're born after a gestation period or pregnancy of about 120 days, so that's close to 4 months. And then the litter size is anywhere between like 2 or 3 up to as many as 8, but it's typically kind of close to 5 babies born at a time. And usually all the moms kind of give birth around the same time frame. And then all the moms in the group will feed any of the babies, whether it's their baby or not, which is kind of an interesting social thing that they've got going on, but it's beneficial to the whole group. And it's especially beneficial if the mom by chance gets eaten, then her babies can still be taken care of by the other moms in the group. The babies, when they're born, are between 2 and 3 pounds, so they're probably about this big. They're super, super cute. They're born ready to go. They can run within a few minutes or hours of being born, and they're on the go pretty quick. So they're super adorable. I'll post some photos and videos of them later today. They will nurse from any of the moms in the group, and they'll nurse for about 4 months. But at about a week old, they start eating vegetation. So they'll eat the grass and some of the leaves and start slowly eating more and more of that and relying less on the milk from the mom or from the other adult females. One thing that is a little odd and interesting for capybaras, they eat their own poop. This is pretty wide documented. It happens in captivity as well as in the wild, but it's because of what they're eating, that heavy fiber of the grass and the leaves and stuff of a lot of the plants, that's hard for most stomachs to digest. And they're a rodent, so they have a pretty simple digestive system. Things like a cow, a goat, or a sheep have like 4 stomachs to help get all that going on. Other animals like gorillas or some of the leaf-eating monkeys have very special acid chambers in their digestive system that help break down that plant material. With capybaras, they do it a simpler way. They eat it once, they poop it out, then they eat it again. And that helps them to get more nutrients out of the plant matter that they eat. And it makes me really happy that I am not a capybara, because that sounds pretty disgusting. And although I haven't seen them do that, it is pretty well recorded, and many different places that I looked at for information about them all talked about that. So it is definitely something that has been observed in the wild as well as in captivity. Capybaras are listed as least concern, so they are not threatened with being endangered, which is some good news because they're very cute and they're an important part of the food chain. They eat a lot of the grass and help keep the plants from growing too much near some of those rivers and areas where they might start to congest the water, but also they're a food source for a lot of those predators in Central and South America. But it's not just other animals that eat capybaras. People have been eating capybaras for many, many years. In fact, in the 16th century, people in South America actually petitioned the Catholic Church to approve the capybara as a fish so that they could eat it during Fridays and during Lent. I'm not Catholic. I don't know all the details of what that means, but that's pretty crazy that they were able to convince the church that the capybara, which is clearly a mammal covered with hair, doesn't have scales, can come out of the water, but they officially declared it a fish and made it so that you could eat it on Fish Fridays. So I thought that was pretty interesting. People in many of the countries where capybaras live still eat them. They also eat some of their relatives. Things like guinea pigs were first domesticated in the country of Peru as a food source, and they are still eaten there today. Traditionally for capybaras, that did mean that their population struggled a bit for a long time because they were hunted and trapped quite a bit. But today there are actually farms that raise them, kind of like here in the United States, we raise chickens and cows and pigs to eat. In South America, they raise capybaras on farms to eat, and they also use their hides as a source of leather. So they are very important to their local communities in much of their rangeland. They also do struggle a bit with habitat loss, and in some places where land has been drained, wetlands have been drained to make agricultural land, that has decreased their population in some areas, but their range is pretty large. So as a population in general, they have done quite well. I'll be sharing more information with you about capybaras later today on the Facebook profile, so watch out for that. And as always, all of the Critter Chats are uploaded daily to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and I then put them up on my website, so feel free to check that out at jeremythezoonerd.com. That's all I have to share for you today. A little bit short, but it's hot out here, so I'm gonna head back inside and try to stay cool. As always, be happy, be safe, have fun. See you tomorrow. Bye.